What up, y'all? This is ASTRODIM here, giving you a special give you something special here, talking about the wounded healer himself, Chiron. Okay. So I wanted to kind of teach. Well, first of all, this is the topic of the motherfucking month. Okay, everybody, put your hands together because it's the topic of the month, and we're gonna go deeper and deeper into the Chiron and how you can navigate that shit. Okay. So you know, guys, I like to use astro.com. Chiron is available if you go to the extended horoscope version or page on astro.com, where it says additional objects. Chiron is listed as the first asteroid on there. Okay, Chiron. Definitely check where yours is at. Chiron is a slow moving asteroid. It's technically so some astronomers call it an asteroid, some astronomers call it a dwarf planet. Regardless, dwarf planets are treated very similar to asteroids when it comes to aspects. Only use a 3-degree orb for those. Okay, don't go above that. Just don't. Okay, but what I definitely suggest you guys to do is look and see where your Chiron is. It's slow moving, so most likely your Chiron is the same as other people's who was born around you. But if you're interested in knowing what the asteroid number is 2060. Okay, but you may be wondering, okay, like, why do I have to look at where Chiron is in my chart? Like, why is this important? Well, Chiron represents how you are a wounded healer. It's such a deep, beautiful, Sammy and Chill's already talking about it. It's such a deep, beautiful aspect of astrology that touches my motherfucking heart. Okay, it really does. It's incredible. So when it comes to Chiron, what this energy represents is the most significant when it comes to your natal chart. By the way, I'll talk about transit in a second too. The most significant childhood trauma that you've had. Now, you may think like, okay, my Chiron's in a particular place, and I feel like that wasn't the most significant childhood trauma I had. I've been through worse. I've seen this. I went through that. I experienced this. But strange enough, you were able to heal that trauma that may seem, more intense than the trauma that Chiron is trying to show you. Okay, the special thing about Chiron's placement is it shows you a childhood trauma that you've experienced that you've actually held on into your adulthood. So you may have experienced a tougher trauma that Chiron's not speaking of. However, you were able to heal it, or you were able to heal a little, even just a bit of it. With this childhood trauma is you moving into your adulthood with this trauma. And what happens is basically you kind of are programmed by this trauma, if that makes any sense. You're programmed by this trauma to do certain things that are just not right for you. That's not the most healthy. And you start having repeated, action, repeated behavior, and not realizing, almost stupefied, for instance, not realizing how it's hurting you. You know what I mean? And so usually what happens in a natural sense, for people who are not astrologers, or people that are interested in astrology or spirituality, naturally what they do is around their Saturn return, they're like, well, oh shit, I have this repeated trauma that I keep going through and keep experiencing, and I don't know why. I keep doing this thing over and over again. I need to heal this. And so they try to heal it, right? Now, the reason why this happens around their Saturn return is because Chiron and Saturn has a close connection. Chiron, in the Chiron myth, is the son of Kronos and Philyra. I might be pronouncing this incorrectly, but Philyra. And Kronos is Saturn, okay? And so Kronos and Saturn is the same archetype. And so that's why it usually happens around your Saturn return, just before your Saturn return. If you're not into like astrology, you realize it then. And even if you're into astrology, because guys, I've been studying astrology since I was like 14, been interested in it even before then, right? But I started like drawing charts and shit and really getting into like the depthness of charts, birth charts, when I was 14. And I knew about Chiron, was aware of it. Saw the connections of my childhood trauma. It was like, all right, cool. But when it was my Saturn return, that's when I saw the intensity and severity of this repeated behavior that I had, and how I need to fix it, because it's a part of my life purpose, one big part of my life purpose. You know what I mean? And how I need to find authority within my life. And the reason why it's connected again is because Chiron in the myth was the son of Kronos. Okay. But anyways, let's continue. So like, this is how it usually goes, right? It's around your Saturn return. You realize you have this repeated behavior. Like, wow, I need to address this. This is fucked up, right? And so you start addressing this childhood trauma. Start building upon this healing for it, right? Trying to heal it yourself. And really start to address the issue so you can turn this trauma into something like a lesson learned, and to become a better and stronger person. And the beautiful thing about Chiron is like, although like it's a trauma, you stuck with it for a long time, and you know, the healing process could be very difficult, right? The universe sees you trying to heal yourself, right? And it's not because like, I mean, the universe sees it, but what's happening, the reason why the universe sees it is because, you know, you're like, while you're healing and, you know, projecting positivity, you send positive waves to the universe. And so the universe will, again, like I always say, like with manifestation, boomerang that positivity back to you. And so when it comes to Chiron, while you're healing and sending those healing waves naturally just from you healing yourself, what Chiron does is it brings people who've experienced similar childhood traumas to you. Right? Now, they send different types of people. They send people who are in the same healing process and stage as you. They send people who are that experience the same trauma, but are in like a higher healing stage so they can help you become stronger, you know? And of course, the people that are in the similar healing stage as you, you know, you guys can relate with each other and get each other. But they also send people who are not yet at that stage of healing. So you can put them on to certain things. So you're getting put on to certain things. You're putting people on to certain things when it comes to healing. And it literally, you through your healing process is starting and continuing a healing wave when it comes to this childhood trauma that you have and what other people have. And you start to become the example. You know what I mean? And you start to really heal yourself and heal others. This is why it's called the wounded healer in an astrological sense, because although you went through this childhood trauma yourself, you know what I mean? Although you went through this pain yourself, you've found a way how to heal yourself, and now you're healing others just naturally. It's a beautiful, beautiful thing. It really is. It's one of the most inspiring, dwarf planets and asteroids in astrology. I love it. I think it's really beautiful. And although it can be tough, it can be hard, it is a lifelong lesson. Similar to North Nodes, it is something that you have to continuously heal. It's not just a one-shot thing where like, okay, I healed it, I'm done now. No, you always got to heal it. You know, it's just that you're put on to it at a certain time, and then now it's your duty to realize it and to unprogram yourself from that trauma that you've experienced. You know what I mean? And it's beautiful because while you heal yourself, you are continuously meeting people, beautiful examples of a similar trauma, and they can help you and you help them. And it's just a beautiful healing wave, healing circle and wave at the same time. Motherfucker. God damn. Okay. It's beautiful. And so you may wonder, okay, like, how do you know this interpretation, Demi? Like, okay. So of course there's a lot of stuff out here about Chiron. And I remember when I first, I actually used to do these mini readings for free for people just to put my name out there. And one of the first things I gave readings for was, Chiron, people's Chiron placements. And, that's the kicker. Like, I can usually convince someone of astrology by looking at that Chiron, because you can really see really tap into people's like inner conflictions, I guess, conflicted area. I don't know. And like, you can really open their eyes and see like, and kind of show them like, yo, this shit's real, and because how would I know that's a trauma of yours? How can I know that's always on your mind? You get what I'm saying? It's really interesting. But like, that was the first thing that I did. And there's a lot of information out there about Chiron, and I agree with a lot of the astrologers and what they say about it. But, I do have my own little versions of like a little understandings of what it is. And so what I like to do is kind of just show y'all or speak to you guys about the myth of Chiron. Give my general interpretation of it. And then just like drop that little nugget for you guys so you can see how it goes with your chart. Of course, because it's the topic of the month, that this is going to be the mini reading of the month as well. I might also do something on Sedna. I just said might. You'll see. Okay. But definitely I'm going to talk about Chiron. Chiron's the main focus for this month. Okay. And so if you're interested in the mini reading, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to start it next week, right? But if you want like a general mini reading where I just talk about your specific placement and that's it, I'm gonna have a pre-recorded version of that I'll send to you. You know what I mean? And you can listen to that, and that will be, I'm thinking of maybe $10. I'll let you know when I complete it. And then if you want like an actual reading of me looking at your chart, looking at the placement and aspects of your Chiron, that'll be between like $15-$20. I'm still trying to figure that out too. So I have a pre-recorded version, and I'll also have a personalized version. But let's go ahead and just talk about Chiron, okay? Just in general. So, the actual myth, right? So Chiron, right? Again, spelled Chiron, Chiron. Chiron was a centaur, okay? And then I know you're like, what's a centaur? Well, centaurs are half human, half horse. The upper body of a human, and then like the bottom half is horse. The whole 4 legs and all that stuff, right? So that was like, that's a centaur, but Chiron was a little bit special, okay? He was, again, the son of Kronos and Philyra, which was, I believe, I don't know, I think Philyra was a Oceanid, I don't know how to pronounce that. But anyways, Kronos was cheating, per usual, with Philyra, and he turned into a horse, and so he can kind of like, have this affair with Philyra, and then impregnated her, and then Philyra like gave birth to Chiron, and she was horrified that he was a centaur, so she abandoned him, which is really messed up. So that shows you the whole, childhood trauma. Right? His own parents won't accept him. Kronos won't, because he is not of his, not from his wife. Philyra thinks that he's hideous and abandoned him. So there's this whole huge childhood trauma that he had to experience that was held on to him until his adulthood. Now, he was a little different from other centaurs because his 2 front legs were human, while he had the back of a horse. And so like usually how a centaur is kind of like what they look like is like the top half is human, and then like the bottom half, both like with they have 4 legs, and it looks like a horse. Well, it looks like his whole front was human, you know what I mean? And so like if he had 4 legs, the 2 front legs were human. It's just that the back, he had a back that's similar to a horse. So it's just really interesting looking. And so basically, his mother was horrified, was like, okay, I do not want this child. And so he was pretty much an orphan, by himself. But the Apollo, the god Apollo, took him in. And Apollo, as we know, was like really, really talented and creative and smart. So Apollo taught him art, medicine, how to use a bow and arrow, and like a whole bunch of like natural, talented, gifted type of stuff. Like he kind of saw the gifts that, you know, Chiron naturally had, and then kind of like expanded it. You know what I mean? But also taught him some other things too. And that led for Chiron to be like a great sage, a great oracle, amazing healer, an amazing teacher and tutor, curative scientist. Like he's just really well learned, very refined, very distinguished. When you think of like, you know, high vibration Sagittarius and how they are like know a lot of things, you know what I mean? Just very much in the know. This is where it's coming from, this essence right here, right? And he was accomplished tutor and trainer of a lot of heroes, including Achilles, Theseus, Ajax, Jason, and more. And now with Chiron, he was like the wisest centaur. Again, you know, he was trained and raised and taught by Apollo. Now, usually centaurs are like kind of wild. They're descendants of Ixion beings who follow more of their like kind of like rough, beastly, carnal desires. Like they just are just very doggy dog when it comes to, you know, living. Think of like Neanderthals, baby, right? And so they have more like kind of like more beastly type of instincts, if that makes sense, you know? But Chiron wasn't like that. Chiron was definitely more refined. And the thing is, which is really interesting, is that he actually fought centaurs constantly because he felt like embarrassed by them a little bit. And wasn't really respecting that side of him. He's like, well, y'all could be better than this. Why are y'all raggedy? Not really realizing that, you know, the other centaurs didn't have that ability or didn't have that opportunity that he did to be taught by Apollo. They were living their natural way. Not realizing that he's actually even different because the rest of them had like their whole bottom half was horse. You know what I mean? Only half of Chiron's bottom half was horse. So, you know what I mean? But he just wasn't accepting of them. And so he fought them a lot. He fought them too because, you know, centaurs didn't like, you know, humans and gods and all that stuff. And so he was like, they consistently, you know, would fight them. And Chiron's like, well, these people helped me when no one else would. So I will fight for, you know, Apollo and humans and titans and the gods and stuff like that. You know what I mean? And so he had beef with his own kind. When you really think about it, you know what I mean? There was a moment where he saved Peleus or Peleus, I might be pronouncing that incorrectly, which is a titan. So it's like he would fight them. Now, a horrible incident happened in which Hercules caused Chiron to die, but he didn't die. He died because of Hercules, but Hercules didn't kill him, if that makes sense. So let me kind of explain this to you. So while Hercules was fighting centaurs, right? It was part of like one of his like things that he had to do. Hercules was fighting centaurs, and Chiron was trying to help Hercules, but Hercules hit Chiron with an arrow with Hydra's blood, which was like was poisonous blood, right? And the thing is, for most people, you know, most beings, they will die because of Hydra's blood. But because Chiron was the son of Kronos, a titan and a god, he was immortal. So what Chiron had to deal with for a while was the agonizing pain of this arrow laced with Hydra's blood wounding him. And he was going to deal with that forever. Because again, he's immortal, but he still can feel pain. So this is, again, another physical kind of representation of the wounded healer. He was the wounded healer internally through what he went through as a child, but now he's literally a wounded healer, right? Which is really interesting. And so he was just agonized by the pain. It was just really, really painful. And so what he ended up doing was begging Hades to accept him into the underworld, to Hades' kingdom. The interesting thing about this was that his daughter, before all of this happened, Chiron's daughter actually warned him of this, but he ended up getting mad and she was turned into a horse because she warned him that, something's gonna happen and you're gonna be mortal, and it's because you're immortal, but you're gonna be mortal because you want to die over something. She thought it was like a serpent, a serpent was gonna bite him. And the thing is, it's like it was kind of like serpent-esque energy, because a lot of people see serpents, well, at least the not the really other world, but like the Western world sees serpents as like conniving, shisty, negative energy, right? And Hercules wasn't trying to kill Chiron. Hercules actually felt really bad of killing Chiron, but it was a snake-like action, even though it didn't have the snake-like intent. Someone that he was riding for ended up killing him. Do you feel what I'm saying? And so it was really interesting. But anyways, she was turned to a horse, which was whack. But whatever. So Hades was like, all right, I'll go ahead and, take you to the underworld, so you don't have to suffer no more. And so that's what happened. He ended up dying because Hades took him. However, he was honored by the gods, and they painted a portrait of him in the sky, which is the constellation of Sagittarius. So remember how I was saying how like Chiron was similar to Sagittarius-esque energy? Well, that is Chiron in the constellation of Sag. So that's his like backstory. You know what I mean? Now you can see the wounded healer happen internally and externally. Really interesting energy. So like if you kind of like think back of what I was saying, you can see the conclusion, why I came up with the conclusion I did, and why a lot of astrologers came up with the conclusion. Chiron is where in your life you have a childhood trauma or wound that you have to patch up, learn from, and rise above. This is the very thing that is important to your purpose, but its negative energies and circumstances is trying to hold you back from doing that good. You know what I mean? It's not helping you be your fullest potential. You know what I mean? And so it's kind of like almost even like a test. Like, we're gonna hold you back in this way. How are you gonna get yourself out of it? Almost, it's almost like that. And it's like the funny thing about Chiron, of course, depending on how it's aspected in your chart, it could be really, really bad. It can be not so bad, but Chiron's so personal that even if you don't perceive someone's Chiron to be that bad, to them it's that bad. That wound hurts that much. Because we have to really think about Chiron, y'all. You've had this childhood trauma a long time ago, and you're still holding on to it in your adulthood, and you're not properly healing from it. That's an issue. It must have hurt you that bad. No matter how other people perceive that trauma, that pain, that wound, it hurt you that bad. It's very personal. You get what I'm saying? And so in the outside world, people can say like, well, that person's Chiron wound is way worse than that person. It's easy to do that. You're not the person that's experiencing it. Like everybody perceives a trauma and pain differently. And it's so funny because I was literally just talking to my sister about this. Some people have a harder time healing certain type of wounds and traumas. You know what I mean? Like I can say even with my family, we've dealt with a lot of trauma, but all of us, expressed it, dealt with it, healed it in many different ways because we're all different people. And just because I healed it this way and at that duration doesn't mean my other sibling will heal it in that duration and in that way. We're all different. You feel what I'm saying? And so, this wound is kind of teaching you that, hey, you kind of have to experience this fuckery, right? This situation, so you can help other people heal who went through similar fuckeries too. So everyone could work at their best potential. So that's why you are the wounded healer. You know what I mean? The very wound that you have, you've healed it. And now you can go ahead and heal others because you experience that wound. You know how it feels. You understand the pains of it. You get it. You know what I'm saying? So that's how I feel generally on what Chiron means. Now, we can kind of dig a little bit more into the story and come up with some other interpretations too, I feel like Chiron is also the part of you which you fight against because you feel it's beneath you. For instance, Chiron fighting other centaurs. Now you think it's crazy, like he's a centaur. Why is he fighting other centaurs? Like, it's kind of crazy. It's kind of like, you being a singer and you're like fighting other singers. Like, you guys are the same thing. You know what I mean? Like, not same thing literally, but you understand each other. Like, why can't you get it? And so I really feel like, Chiron can also represent the part of you in which you fight against because you feel it's beneath you, but that is also a part of you. You feel what I'm saying? I also feel that people who have Chiron in prominent places can show you being an oracle, being intelligent, being a teacher, a tutor, a healer, being refined, being different from the rest. I feel like if you have Chiron in a special place, it shows, when I say a special or prominent place, I mean like conjuncture ascendant, conjuncture descendant, or other cardinal points, conjunct a planet, you know what I mean? Any cosmic body, it can show that you are embodying Chiron in that special way. So for instance, if you have Chiron conjunct Sun, you express yourself like Chiron conjunct ascendant. You are Chiron. You feel what I'm saying? Chiron conjunct descendant. You would date someone like Chiron. You know what I mean? Possibly date somebody who is an oracle or a healer. Possibly date someone who's been neglected as a child. And probably date someone who fought people who were similar to them. You feel what I'm saying? That type of energy. It makes me think of like, someone fighting in a war, and the people that they're fighting are people of their ethnicity, but not of their nationality. You feel what I'm saying? Something like that. So I feel like that it can speak on, like special aspects or, especially conjunctions. It can show where you could be an oracle, where you have high intelligence, where you can really be trained, and how you can train others in that aspect, and how you can be more refined. And it's funny because, again, it also shows you where you're the most wounded. And so, I often see especially when I was doing a lot of Chiron readings, that like it really felt like the people around this person created this trauma around this person because the people were a little bit had their own insecurities and they were projecting. You know what I mean? So for instance, if someone had like Chiron and Leo, right? I noticed a lot of people that have Chiron and Leo, they always had people ridiculing them and making fun of them of being self-expressive in their own way. You know what I mean? Expressing themselves, showing their talents, showing their hobbies, being like a bright light in the room. And then someone always got to say something to make you feel like you have to shrink yourself to be along with the group. You know what I mean? To make you feel a certain type of way about how you do something, how you express a talent, how you express yourself in romance. You just continuously ridiculed and made fun of. And that's the trauma that you've experienced, was that. But the thing is, if you practice that part of yourself more and more, that's the very thing that is a part of your life purpose. That's the very thing that if you heal that wound, and you don't ignore that part of you and you refine it, that can make you known. That can make you superior, important. where even the gods appreciate you. You know what I mean? And create a portrait of you. You feel what I'm saying? So I definitely feel that Chiron represents that too. I also feel that Chiron represents how you're different from the rest. You know what I mean? Again, Chiron was different from the other centaurs. I can see it like representing how, you know, even though you are of your community, you stick out. You know what I mean? Like a sore thumb. Not even, it don't have to be even sore, you know, but you just like stick out from other people, because even how Chiron looked, he looked different from different centaurs. So I definitely see that as well. I see, this kind of representing too, you know, possibly someone who was raised by someone else other than their parents. Because that's what Chiron had to experience. You know what I mean? Being neglected or abandoned by their parents too. Being forgotten from their parents. So if you have Chiron somewhere prominent in your chart, I wouldn't be surprised you experienced that. And I really feel that, y'all, because like, for instance, I don't know if you guys listen to my Persephone podcast, but yo, like, I have Persephone conjunct my ascendant, and a lot of things that she experienced, I've experienced. Thankfully, not the kidnapping part, but you know what I mean? Like, it's crazy. It's wild how it happens. I think my spiritual guides every day, that I didn't have to go through half the shit that she went through, but a lot of stuff that she did, I did, and it's really strange. So I really hold on to that for sure. Like, it's real. Chiron, I think, also represents too, you know, being accidentally killed or harmed by a friend. You know what I mean? Or being, you know, harmed by a friend by accident. You know, that's what I really feel like. It's an accidental thing. Being harmed and in pain, or having to deal with somebody, or possibly even dying in an accidental way by someone that you really didn't expect. You know what I mean? So I see that. I also see Chiron represents being revered, more so in death than in life. You know what I mean? Again, Chiron was appreciated and loved. You know, again, he was a great tutor, a great teacher. But, you know, when the gods paint a portrait of you in the sky, my nigga, you know, that's a little something else. That's special. So I definitely see that. I see Chiron representing choosing to die, or being ready to die. You know, like Biggie's first album, Ready to Die, even though he really wasn't ready to die. You know what I'm saying? Like, having that mindset of being ready to die and wanting to control how you die. So, you know, someone who, like, you know, gives up on, and I mean this in the most respectful way, but kind of feels like, you know what, I don't want to deal with this, fighting this sickness no more. I'm going to go in hospice. You know what I mean? Someone that's thinking like that, or someone who wants to have this, you know, experience the medical suicide, things like that. Because that's when you think about that, Chiron, again, acts Hades, just go ahead and take me. Please let me be in the underworld. I don't want to be immortal anymore. This is too painful. You know what I mean? And I feel like Chiron also represents too, you know, someone close to you trying to put you on, or try to help tell your story, and you don't listen. You know what I mean? Like, and you think like, man, what's her face told me this was going to happen. You know what I mean? Because the whole situation with him and his daughter represents that energy too. And then, you know, it's kind of like you having someone telling you directly what's going to happen, and you know you can trust this person, but you get mad and lash out. You know what I mean? It's like the situation which you tell your friend that, hey, I saw your man, he was cheating on you, he's with another girl, and the friend gets mad at you for saying it. It's like that, you know? And then lastly, you know, another last thing that I see more, but I'm just going to have to cut it short eventually, right? You know, we see Chiron as a different centaur with loads of potential, but was neglected and ridiculed by his own parents. If Apollo didn't come through, he would have never even exercised his potential. You know what I mean? Lord knows, he probably could have died. Like, Lord knows what could have happened if Apollo didn't pick Chiron up. Right? So, of course, it represents possibly like foster care, and you know, being adopted and things like that. But it also kind of represents too, like, having the opportunity to work on your, you know, with your natural talents that you have, having the ability to really hone on them, because a lot of people, you know, have natural talents, but they never have the opportunities to express those talents right. You know what I mean? And so I feel like Chiron can speak on that too. So with all this being said, y'all, you know, Chiron, yes, represents childhood traumas that you hold on to until adulthood, and then you start to heal it, and then you heal other people with the same traumas. That's yes. But it's, you know, if you kind of dissect the myth, and this is how I usually do interpretations, y'all, dissect the myth a bit, you know, you get to get other interpretations of it and what else it could mean. And, you know, kind of going deeper into, you know, the myth and dissecting what it means, it all kind of leads up to the main interpretation of healing your childhood traumas. You know, for instance, like one of the examples I used was, it speaks of, you know, being an oracle, intelligent, a teacher, tutor. But the thing is, you have to realize that, hey, I do have this gift. Yes, I was ridiculed about it. Yes, I was abandoned. Yes, I had this trauma, but I do have this gift. Let me go ahead and start teaching others. Let me use what wounded me and actually help others with it. Do you feel what I'm saying? And it's all about healing your childhood traumas and wounds. So it can, you know, if you kind of like peel the myth a little bit and really get an understanding of the whole entire story, you could build multiple interpretations, but it all leads to the same thing, this main interpretation of childhood traumas that you heal and help other people heal too. All right, so that's my topic of the month little session thing, you know what I mean? I hope you guys appreciated it. Let me know if, you know, you have any questions or anything. Just feel free to comment on the comment section of ASTRODIM'S. And let's have a conversation about Chiron, y'all. Shit. Again, if you're interested in the pre-recorded or the made-to-order reading about Chiron, you know, hit me up. And I'll have the prices available very, very soon. Definitely by, let's say, February 10th, my brother's birthday. Shout out to my brother. I love him so much. He's awesome. All right. And shout out to my friend Cleo, too. It's her birthday as well. All right. So that's what I got for you guys. I hope you appreciate it. And let's talk. All right. Peace.